Welcome to Ideas with Impact podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra. Today, I had such a pleasure talking to Jennifer Conrad. Now, the path that led Jen to holistic health was a total tough one. She originally began looking at alternative health practices after the death of her parents in 2006 and a terrible car accident in 2007. It took almost a decade for her to pursue education as a holistic nutritionist, which led her to further study as a holistic reproductive health practitioner and as a DONA certified birth doula. Her studies help her to overcome her own reproductive health issues, and now her focus is on helping couples to heal their reproductive health and conceive naturally. Jen's original career path was as a vet technician, working with all these animals for over a decade. Now she enjoys spending time with her dog, Joseph, and riding her horse, Nacho, in her spare time. Thank you and welcome, Jen. Hello, Jen. How are you?
I'm good, Alexandra. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm so excited to have you on today and talk about all about health and fertility and learn a little bit more about you and what you do. So, looking forward to it.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm really excited to chat with you and share all the stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. Awesome. So, Jen, can you explain to the audience the role of nutrition? Can you explain the role of nutrition and fertility and how it can implement a couple's ability to basically conceive?
Sure. What I tell my clients is that what you put in your body is really important, especially when you're trying to conceive. When you're thinking about having a baby, especially let's just take the women side of things because that tends to be where a lot of people focus. And for this second, I'm going to talk specifically about egg health. The egg that you will be ovulating 3 months from now, what you're eating is affecting that egg. It's not affecting the egg that you release this month. It's affecting the one down the line. So based on how eggs mature in your ovary, that's the key, is to get those essential nutrients into your body to increase the health of the egg that's coming down the line. So it's very similar for men. It takes about 3 months for both women and men to increase their fertile health, or their reproductive health is more the term that I like to use. I like to focus less on fertility and focus more on specifically increasing your reproductive health, because I think that reproductive health encompasses so much more than just fertility and your ability to conceive. There's so much more behind that, even though everybody talks about fertility. Anyways, men, same thing for sperm maturation. It takes about 3 months from the beginning of spermatogenesis, so the creation of new sperm, until that sperm is mature and ready to be released. It takes 3 months. So when you're looking at a preconception program, I always look at a minimum of 12 weeks, minimum. So we need 3 months. And for more complex issues, and when I say complex issues, I'm not talking about any kind of physical problem. So there's some things that just nutrition isn't going to necessarily help you conceive naturally if you have blocked fallopian tubes, for example,
Right.
or, problems like that. We can't fix that, but we sure can fix your egg health or increase your egg health. So if you were to need to go down the route of IVF, it's an option. You're going to have healthy eggs. If your partner has healthy sperm, you'll have healthy embryos, which is actually going to decrease the potential for miscarriage, which is really important when you're looking at IVF.
Right.
We're lucky that here in Canada, most couples get one free kick at the can, so to speak. So one free IVF round. And I want everybody who needs to take advantage of that to not have it fail,
Right.
right? I'm invested in helping them make sure that the parts that they're working with are going to be the healthiest
Right.
so that they have the best success rate.
My partner's brother,
Mm-hmm.
him and his wife were going through the IVF process. Well, what happened is when they had their first child, they were trying for a second one, ectopic pregnancy. And basically, what happened, it created some damage to her fallopian tube and it had to be removed.
Yes.
So it was really hard for her because she couldn't get pregnant for quite some time, I think close to
Right.
2 years or so. And
Right.
then finally, like you said, because in Canada we have that one try um, to try the IVF, and they did that. I
Right.
think they tried 3 times, and we just got actually the news about 2.5, 3 weeks ago that they're pregnant with twins.
That's fantastic. Good for them.
Yeah, so super exciting to hear.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, ectopic pregnancy is very dangerous.
yeah.
It can be very life-threatening, especially if you don't catch it right away.
Hmm.
So I'm very glad that she's okay and that everything worked out well for her.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. Same
you're welcome.
here. So, what are some key nutrients that are important for fertility, and how can they be incorporated into couples' diet, for example?
Right. So I think the best course of action, and this is just, for my couples, I always recommend that they do this together. There should be a couple project, right? Um, it isn't it isn't just all about the female partner. It is truly both of you
It's a
need to be.
teamwork.
It's
Yes,
teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Absolutely.
that's it.
So it's going to it's going to behoove everybody to clean up their diet and make sure they're living a lifestyle that is sustainable and health promoting. So
Hmm.
that's the foundation of everything. For me, I don't recommend a specific diet specifically to anybody because we're all unique. We all have different needs. You know, there's been a lot of stuff that I've seen that's, eat keto and you'll get pregnant, eat
Right.
vegan and you'll get pregnant. And sure,
And
that
the
might,
opposite.
yeah, it might work for some people, but it's not going to work for everybody.
Right.
The most important thing is eating a very nutrient dense diet. So when I say nutrient dense, I'm talking about 80% of the time to 90% of the time, you should be eating food that's minimally processed. You should be eating a rainbow of fruits and vegetables every day. You should be cutting down on food that came out of a box or has a barcode, or, if you can drive up to the window and get it, you should not be putting that in your body 80 to 90% of the time,
Yeah.
right? You need
Yeah.
to focus on healthy fats. More than anything, healthy fats are really important in,
Yeah, because we've been so again, I don't want to use that word brainwash, but we have been for many, many years in the early 1990s. That fat is so bad and everything suddenly has been removed from
right.
all the foods, right?
Yeah.
So now, I mean, I think people are, turning their heads and be like, hey, it's okay. Avocado actually is good for you.
Right.
Um, where we are switching and we are looking for the more healthier fats, right? Like the salmon and the
Yeah.
avocados and the coconut oils and so on. So yeah.
That's that's right. It's so important to make sure you're getting all of that fat,
Mhm.
and then, again, the vegetables and reducing your inflammatory foods. Like
That's a
anything
big
that's
one.
going to
Mhm.
cause an inflammatory response in your body isn't good. It's going to tax your nervous system. And unfortunately, I'm going to say something that could possibly be triggering for some people, but reducing your stress when you're trying to conceive is crucial. And I don't say that flippantly. I don't say, oh, just relax. What I really mean is true stress management and reducing the things on your body that your body interprets as stress that isn't necessarily emotional stress. But when you're eating inflammatory foods and diets that aren't don't help your body, it's causing stress as well.
Right. It's like a
Right?
vicious circle, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's really important to get that under control as well. And inflammatory foods is one of the biggest ones. So if you know your body doesn't react to something, it's time to get rid of it, right?
Mm,
Get rid of it, let your body calm down, and then introduce it again and see how it does. If it doesn't
right.
do well, keep it out of your diet.
Be
So
more conscious of what you eat and pay attention. What I usually tell people is journal.
yes,
Keep a journal and write it down what you ate,
yeah,
because you can have that pattern and you can really find out what's really happening, right?
absolutely.
Mm,
And there's some cases where I'll even suggest to clients an anti-inflammatory diet because
right.
it's really important for 30 days, get everything out. I know it's 30 days. I know it's hard. I know it means you're probably going to have to say no thank you to social events. But
Yeah.
if your body is really shut down, you're going to need to do something a little bit drastic for a short period of time to give it that break. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite interesting to see what food actually what
mhm,
food have a role to play in our reproduction and anything in health, from
absolutely.
cancer to fatigue to, like you said, stress and everything, right? So,
That's it.
yeah. What are some of the common nutritional deficiencies that can basically affect fertility for both men and women?
Well, I specialize in working with clients who are in their mid to late 30s.
Okay.
So we're already at the tail end of what is called the like traditional reproductive health period. That doesn't mean that they can't achieve pregnancy and that they can't carry a baby to term and they can't have a healthy postpartum period. It just means a little bit of extra work is required initially because they likely have a history of having been on birth control for a significant period of time.
Yeah.
This we have a small issue with young women, and I'm talking about in their mid-teens, possibly even before their menstrual cycle has actually matured and become regular and settled into its normal pattern. These young girls are going on the pill without any idea of the repercussions to their fertile health later on in life. Like it really can be damaging when you've been on it.
Can you share what could be those repercussion of being on the pill, for example?
So the pill will actually take all kinds of nutrients from your body. It'll deplete you of B vitamins, which are essential for reproductive health. It can damage the cervical crypts. So those are the mucus producing crypts in your cervix. And close to ovulation, these cervical crypts produce this beautiful mucus, which is very stringy, almost like an egg white mucus. And the entire role of this mucus is to make the vaginal canal less acidic. Our vaginas are normally very acidic, and that helps to decrease bacteria and infections and all that kind of stuff in our vagina. Additionally, it kills sperm when it's acidic. So
Mm,
when we're not fertile, we're not getting close to ovulation, sperm cannot live in our vaginas for
mm,
any length of time. It takes this lovely mucus, this fertile mucus, to coat the inside of our vaginas that actually helps the sperm to survive and make it all the way to our egg. So when you damage that, it decreases sperm's motility and can prevent you from being able to achieve pregnancy later on.
mm.
So
That's interesting.
it's really interesting, and I've seen a lot of it in my practice. These women who have been on birth control for years and years and years, and even I was one of those people who was on birth control for such a long time, like all sorts of different types, because I had really bad menstrual cycles.
Mm,
And I went to the doctor, and the first thing they're going to say is, "Here, let me write you a prescription for the pill."
right.
So, I went along my merry way taking it. And as a young woman, it's easy to take your pills, not have to worry about when your
Right.
period is going to arrive. You can
Right.
even just keep taking the pill and never having a period if you don't want to. If there's a special event. Like it makes
Mm,
it easy, but nobody explained to me how hard it would take or how long it would take, sorry, and how hard it would be to
yeah.
restore fertility afterwards.
So, how long does it usually take for someone when they're on the pill? Does it take like 3 months, 6 months, a year to clear the system from taking the pill before actually conceiving?
It can take, like, for your menstrual cycle to come back to baseline, it can take 12 to 18 months
Oh,
after being
wow.
on the pill consistently for a while. Some women are very lucky and it returns very normally quite quickly, but it's dependent on quite a few things. Like lifestyle is really important.
Mm,
So how healthy your lifestyle is, and I don't just mean what you're eating. I mean how you're sleeping, how you're managing your stress. If you drink, all of that kind of stuff. How well you process these chemical hormones, which are our bodies have an affinity for these hormones. They attach better to our cells
yeah.
than the stuff that we produce in our own body. So if you have any sort of impaired liver detoxification pathways, it's going to be harder for you to
Right.
process this stuff out.
So how can they manage, for example, um, their lifestyle, right? Like if they're living certain lifestyle, like how can that be approached? Or if they really want to make this happen,
Right.
how can they go about this?
Well, the most important thing, again, is diet and knowing. I think if you can accept that it's going to potentially take you 12 to 18 months and you sort of settle into that and know that you have some work to do, we want to make sure your blood sugar is consistent or at least under control. So reducing the amount of artificial sweeteners and sugars and all of those things in your body. We want to really eat organic as much as possible. Again, anti-inflammatory foods as much as possible, lots and lots of fruits and vegetables, good quality meat. I prefer, that my clients eat lots of salmon that's, organic. I would prefer not farmed, wild at
Yeah.
the best sources, that kind of thing, and really taking care of your body. Not over exercising, but there is a sweet spot for exercise, so we don't need you to be doing CrossFit 6 times a week. If you are already doing strenuous exercise, that's great. You don't have to stop. But if you haven't started, if like that, I wouldn't ever recommend that somebody start right at the level of CrossFit if they're not ready for that.
Right.
Walking, yoga, those types of things build your body up to that, but you don't have to start in that area. Just
Is
move
it
your body.
because of the rise of the cortisol, or
Yeah.
is it everything combined together?
Especially, so the clients that I work with in that age group, it can be detrimental to them if they're not super active to begin with. I
Right.
have done CrossFit. It is not for the faint of heart.
Right.
And I really would prefer that they keep their cortisol levels low. That's
Right.
not to say that lifting heavy is a bad thing. I just don't necessarily want them, if they do CrossFit, that's great. I'm not at all saying CrossFit's not ideal or
Yeah.
not good. It's wonderful functional movement, but you've got to be at that level before you go in and start crushing it, or start slow. Find a place where you're comfortable just starting slow, and you have great trainers who are going to help you through that
Right.
section.
Well, at least they
Um,
have to start somewhere, right?
that's
So as
it.
you said, either it's yoga or it's some sort of walking. I just read an article saying that, and again, this is not to say that running is not good because
No,
everybody likes their own thing, but there was an article and they said in the study that actually walking can be better for you than running. You can lose the weight. You can have your um, I guess your body's going to react better to certain things just by walking.
yeah,
Walking in nature, walking, just walking, period.
absolutely. I'm a walkaholic. I love to walk. And, walking, the other thing too is when we're looking at reproductive health, if everything that we're doing here is to help a couple get pregnant and then sustain that pregnancy and keep
Right.
these lifestyle recommendations going throughout pregnancy, walking is probably the best thing you could do,
Yeah.
right? There's very little chance of harming yourself by walking. So
Right.
as you get bigger, you can walk through things. It's really good for your hips to keep them moving. It's really good when you walk after a meal, which is what I recommend to a lot of my clients. It reduces your insulin levels, like that insulin
Mhm.
spike and the blood sugar spike. it helps everything to settle. When you're walking outside and you're getting the sunlight during the day, you sleep better at night. Like, there's so many wonderful things to say about walking that, because I'm not a personal trainer, I would never suggest to anybody to do anything that was going to put them in a spot where they might be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I feel safe saying walking, whether it's on a treadmill in the wintertime or on a walking track somewhere or just outside during the day and as the weather gets nicer, you know, you can't go wrong with walking.
Yeah, get some fresh air and just connect with nature and everything. Yeah, for sure.
That's it. I walk for about an hour to an hour and a half every day, and I love it. I listen to a podcast or a book or something, and it's almost meditative when you're outside and you get to see, you hear the birds, you see the sun, all of the stuff. You feel like part of the world, instead of having to be in your house all the time. You know, we're at the gym. I also love the gym, but it's nice to get outside.
Yeah, it needs to be that balance.
That's right.
What are some common misconceptions about nutrition and fertility that you often come across, and how do you address them?
I've heard so many different things. I've heard it doesn't matter what I eat. My doctors told me that doesn't matter, and I take all that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. Reality is, I've worked with enough couples, and I also do, what I didn't tell you is that I do charting with couples. So I chart the female's menstrual cycle, and you can see when diets are less optimal, you can see the effects of it in a menstrual cycle chart. So, I know that I can help people to make changes. They're slow when it comes to food. We're not talking about a quick fix, but none of this is a quick fix. Usually it takes years to get yourself into this spot, right? Where you've got to heal from something. So now we have to undo all that stuff. And we go slow with food, but it also gives us a chance to tweak things and find what works for certain couples. So somebody with PCOS, for example, is probably going to need a completely different type of diet than somebody who doesn't have PCOS, right? Mm-hmm. Even more so, we're looking at blood sugar management with PCOS rather than somebody who doesn't have that. And that's okay, but it's going to be different things. So the funniest thing that I hear is when they go to the fertility clinic and the fertility doctors tell them it doesn't matter what they eat. The reality is, it matters what we all eat. And, we're seeing so much more disease overall in the world today because people are consuming food from, not from its sources. They're not eating minimally processed foods most of the time.
I simply call it garbage food.
Right. And it's important that you feed your body, not just to satiate hunger and cravings, but to feed your body with nutrition that's going to make all of your cells work. Mm-hmm. And that's the key, right? So we have to make sure that we are eating food that has nutrients in it so that our bodies can take those nutrients and put them into our cells and promote health. That's what we want.
I think this has to come, it's so sad that our doctors today are not aligned with this whole, and I'm not even talking about holistic nutritionist or naturopathy, anything like that, but and I know for a fact that they don't really study nutrition at all, or they have a very small piece in there that they do, but I think it would be so much easier to, let's say, if you had to work with the MD, it would be so much easier to communicate and to help these people, except be like you talked about earlier, here's your pill, you're good, and then people are having these hard times and they're going through this process of having really hard time to conceiving and wanting a child.
Right.
So I wish that, maybe in our lifetime, we can pivot and we can learn from each other and we can change.
That's it. I think that the answer lies between Western medicine and all the natural, options that are out there, or holistic options. I struggle with the fact that the term holistic has become something that people are like, oh, that's fake or that's crazy. because that's not, I mean, a lot of what I do is based in science. And it's, you know, it's unfortunate that when you say holistic anything, it can really turn some people away. Whereas I think oftentimes it holds that key to the complementary care, and you can take care of your body in ways that, like absolutely nothing that is recommended when I'm speaking to a client comes from a place of like, go outside, pick some roots, boil them for a while, and then drink that. It's like, please eat your fruits and vegetables. How about don't eat McDonald's every night of the week? And
Yeah.
don't drink a lot, because it's going to, gum up your liver and you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
It should be more complementary care as opposed to, the other side of the pendulum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find people are resistant to switching to natural organic dietary changes when they're going through this process with you, or this is something that actually they're looking forward to?
I think a lot of people, I haven't had a lot of pushback. I make some recommendations, and truthfully, I allow space for everybody to choose what works best for them. I'm going to make the recommendations, but they get the ultimate say as to what's going to work for them and what's not going to work for them. And I live in the world as well. I do the best that I can. The price of groceries right now is ludicrous.
Yes.
So we have to take steps, and it's like, let's prioritize certain things. Let's do these things to make you feel comfortable. But for the most part, no, they don't have any problems. I find more people shopping in the organic section at the grocery store or at Farm Boy than in the regular section of the grocery store. So, the other thing too is, when you're motivated to conceive, when you're looking to have a baby, most people are willing to do whatever it takes to do that. And, they're open to the suggestion of cutting out certain things or giving something that they've never done before a try. There's a lot of crazy advice out there on the internet anyways. I've read to eat pineapple cores. I don't understand why you would want to do that. And some people take cough syrup to thin their cervical mucus.
Oh my goodness.
There's some crazy stuff out there. So if you're willing to do that, like, the organic tomato is worth the price. You know what I mean?
Is this for real? People really drinking
Yes.
cough syrup? Oh my goodness.
Yes. And actually, it in some cases can do the opposite. It can dry up your cervical mucus, because a lot of these things are designed to decrease secretions, and the mucus from our cervix is a secretion. So
Right. Never thought about that, but this is
right.
a really good point. It's
Yeah.
just like, you don't want to dry up here and you don't want to dry up down there, right? So it's like, hello,
Exactly.
read the fine print.
If women have seasonal allergies and they take medication for their allergies, you can see the change in their cervical mucus on their menstrual charts.
Wow.
So you can see it dry up. It's not as, they don't have as long of a period of cervical mucus. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're less fertile. It just means that they have less cervical mucus that they are seeing because they've been taking these antihistamines. Yeah.
Which is so important.
Right. It's very important.
Yeah.
So.
How long does a typical dietary change have an impact on fertility? Like, does it take a long time for people to notice any changes?
Again, that's a little bit difficult to answer, only because it really is person dependent. So each individual is very, very different. It depends on what your lifestyle was like prior to when you started the program. It depends on, how deficient you are in your body for certain things. So if you're replacing those nutrients, especially B vitamins and that kind of thing, from the pill depleting you, you have to build those stores up. How good is your digestion? How good is, your blood sugar management? All of those things play a massive role. How well does your body detox this kind of stuff? And, if I haven't already mentioned gut health, if your gut isn't working well, you're not digesting things well, you aren't extracting nutrients from your food in the most optimal way. So we need to balance all of that kind of stuff out. And I almost always suggest a preconception supplement to my clients to help fill in the gaps. Those they're paramount for anybody trying to conceive, because it's going to help with decreasing certain birth defects. But if you are behind the eight ball when it comes to nutrients, then you need that as just to fill in those gaps with a healthy diet as well.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of people actually do take any supplementation, or people just don't? They're not aware of it, or they don't know how or what to take?
A lot of times it's they don't know how or what to take, or they're taking things that I would consider a waste of money. So if you're taking the, Costco prenatal vitamins, I say just throw those away. They're not even,
Why is that?
They come in tablet form usually, which is often the least, available, bioavailable vitamin source. They may or may not have methylated B vitamins in there, and some people lack the gene for that methylation process, and they actually can't use the vitamins that are available in it. So some people are okay and some people aren't, and you don't even know until you get tested. So I put everybody onto one that has all of those changes made for them, so they don't even have to think about it. At least it's bioavailable for them. They don't have to go out and get tested or any of that kind of stuff. There's some really great preconception vitamins out there that people can go ahead and take. Again, it's just finding the right ones and making sure it's going to be useful for your body.
Right? So do you put the couples or both, or just the one woman or the man on a protocol that they can follow? Or
yeah, I actually have created an entire program, and it's called the Fertility Fix, and it's actually something I've been doing for a long time, but I've compiled it all into one program now, and it's for both couple or both members of the couple. So I put them both on the same dietary things for them to just simplify eating at home. And they do have preconception vitamins for both the male and the female. As I said, it takes about 3 months for the egg health and the sperm health to be ready. But if you have 50% of the embryo is unhealthy, so if you either have unhealthy sperm or you have unhealthy eggs, your embryo isn't going to be healthy. And that's what leads to miscarriage. That's one of the reasons that I don't want to mislead anybody. It's one of the reasons miscarriages can happen. But it just gives your future child the best opportunity they have to grow and develop well if both of those pieces are healthy. When you think about it, the egg and the sperm, it's going to sound so ridiculous saying this out loud, the egg and the sperm meet, and then those cells multiply multiple times to create an embryo and ultimately a human being. So all of that genetic information in the sperm and in the egg, it needs to be okay. It needs to be ready to go. So we want to be producing the absolute best quality sperm and best quality eggs to have the best quality kiddos, right?
Right.
That's the ultimate goal. It's so much more than just them getting pregnant. It's getting pregnant, having a healthy pregnancy, being able to labor and deliver that baby. And then
that's a big one too, right? It's
people overlook that. And then nobody talks about postpartum. So as a birth doula, I can tell you, nobody talks about postpartum.
I know, because I delivered 3 children of my own, and I never got anything from anybody, and I didn't even know what was happening with me. I totally agree.
Yep.
And I think this can be talked about more. Like, I think the conversation that we're having right now, it's so important that people really look into this and ask questions.
Yes. Because I always said, you go to the hospital and you have your baby and they high five you on the way out of the door and you're carrying this baby in the bucket. And then you get home and nobody tells you what's happening now.
No.
You don't go home with like, here's your new body and this is what you need and this is how to best support yourself. And if you don't want to have postpartum anxiety or depression or worse, these are things that maybe you should do. And my program that I built was designed specifically to help people get themselves into the best habits they can, increase their fertility, conceive on their own if they're able to, which hopefully they would be, have a healthy pregnancy with a reduced risk of gestational diabetes, high blood pressure, preeclampsia, all that jazz, have a healthy labor and delivery, and then go home with their baby and have a healthy postpartum period where they aren't so depleted that they can't do everything.
Yeah, or
Right?
they can't even connect with that child, right?
That's it. And then, hopefully they can produce great quality breast milk and then feed their baby with very little issue. So there's a lot of things that are wrong with women-centered healthcare, and I consider pregnancy and postpartum to be women-centered because it often falls on our shoulders, even when we have wonderfully supportive partners who are there trying to help. If we don't know what we need, how are we supposed to ask for what we
Yeah.
require?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm so happy that you do this because having men involved in this whole process, it also is so important. So that
Absolutely.
we women don't feel so alone.
Yep.
And yeah, it's like you feel depleted almost.
Absolutely. It can be, first of all, they call it labor because you're working really, really hard. And if you're fortunate enough to have an uncomplicated, typical labor, you're still in labor for like a good day, you
Hmm.
know? And you don't feel rested afterwards. You might not feel rested again for a
Yeah.
very long time. So having a partner who, when I work with clients, especially in the capacity as a birth doula, I always prepare them for their postpartum, saying the most important thing is food and sleep. The other things can wait. If you're inviting somebody into your space, have them bring you something, either a prepared meal or they're carrying in some groceries for you or running an errand for you, so that mom, baby, and dad can all be together and be around this child and get to know them instead of trying to get up and entertain people or do
Yeah,
laundry or
yeah,
load a
absolutely.
dishwasher. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
Hmm.
thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Now, what advice would you have? Um, what advice do you have for couples who are struggling with fertility and are considering seeking nutritional guidance?
I'd say support is really important. Like, not only do you need to have the support of a professional who's going to steer you in the right direction, but you also need to have a community that understands what you're struggling with. And when we talk about, I'm going to use the term infertility. If we're going to talk about infertility, there's a lot of issues around people not being compassionate and saying silly things to couples inadvertently. Like, I don't really think that people are going out there saying awful things, but they need people to know that someone's saying it'll happen eventually or trying to be well-meaning. All of that stuff can be very painful for couples who are struggling to conceive. And when
Hmm.
it's the one thing that you want, it seems like everybody and their sister is walking around pregnant and glowing and happy, and it's all that you want, and you feel like your body's betrayed you. So
Hmm.
having a supportive environment where you can, ask the questions and feel the feelings and just be there where you can be supported for exactly where you are, is really crucial. So, but definitely having someone to lead you through what you should and shouldn't do, some charting to see what's going on with your body, especially if we're looking at, being on the pill for a long time or trying to conceive a little bit later in life, where you have, possibly the effects of aging are maybe playing a role here. That's important, is getting that help, being able to identify what's in your control and what's not in your control, and
Hmm.
then focusing your attention on what you can control.
Hmm. That is good because sometimes we have no control over certain things.
That's
we
right.
can't control these things. It's just sometimes it happens.
That's it.
So I community is huge for me as well, and that's why I also created this podcast, because of women and men coming together and creating these conversations where we can openly talk about it without judgment, without, being criticized or anything like that. So I think this is so important. Community support it's big for
That's it.
me.
Just feeling like everybody gets you, everybody
Mm,
understands you, and that it's okay, no matter what you're experiencing, just to show up as yourself, whatever that
yeah,
may be that day.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Jen, any other tips or anything else would you like to add?
Um, I really think the most important thing is that um, if you are looking at increasing your reproductive health, that you really are ready to make some changes. Especially if you're, in the over 35 club, let's just say, as soon
Mm,
as you hit that 35-year mark, I find that doctors are already telling you, like, ooh, you're racing a clock, you're running at a time, you better do it now. Like, what if it's now or never, that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be that way. It really, really doesn't. But it does mean that you have to put a little bit of extra attention into what you're putting into your body and what you're not putting into your body. Sorry for my dogs.
I
So
agree with you.
you agree with me. They're very, very passionate. So that's really it, is that, you can change the health of your eggs. It is absolutely possible to change the health of your eggs as a woman and the health of your partner's sperm. It just takes a little bit of time and dedication. And sometimes that's all. As long as there's no physical barriers there that you know about, there's so many people change some things and your body starts to work better. If you get out of your body's way and take away the stuff that's causing problems, it's amazing how quickly your body wants to heal and wants to return to a normal, healthy state.
What is the percentage of unf- um, infertility, I guess?
So in 2023, the World Health Organization put out a statistic that 1 in 6 people will struggle with fertility. So not couples, 1 in 6 people will struggle. So that's works out to be about 60 to 80 million people in the world will struggle with infertility.
Wow, that's a big
Mm-hmm.
number.
It's a huge number. It's
Yeah.
staggering. And I have seen some trends. A lot of it has to do with birth control and, endocrine disruptors and all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of plastic in our world, and those microplastics we're finding them in every tissue now. And if your body is trying to detox those kinds of things out, they can be very, very bad, right? We are exposed to toxins constantly, and our body needs to be able to remove them effectively from our body. So, and if we can't, then we're stuck with these things building up in our system, which can impact all kinds of things in our body.
Yeah.
So,
So do you also invite people to look into that?
absolutely.
That
It's a,
yeah.
environmental toxins are huge. The things that we use on our body, people often overlook that. They think, well, it's just a, beauty product, but in reality, our skin is our largest organ. It takes no time for our skin to absorb things. So if you're using toxic ingredients, they can build up pretty quickly in your body, and the xenoestrogens specifically. So those are estrogens or estrogen mimicking substances that can compete for our body's natural estrogen. It can really mess up our menstrual cycle, and it can actually cause problems in men as well. So, just because, like, we have testosterone in our bodies, men also have estrogen, just in much lower doses than testosterone, and vice versa for women. But it can be very problematic.
Yeah.
So, mm-hmm.
So is it
Cleaning.
something that they would have to also detox themselves from? I also read somewhere that mold is a huge issue right now too with
Yes,
fertility.
mold is really bad. Um, I mean, for so many reasons. I've seen
Mm,
mold causing a lot of problems, especially in kids and in homes and whatnot. But I definitely encourage people to reduce their, as whatever level they see fit, to reduce the amount of toxins in their homes,
Yeah.
specifically in cleaning products and in personal care products and makeup and all that kind of stuff. And then plastics, get rid of plastics wherever you can. No BPA, that's great, but there's often BPB and all those other things in it.
Yes, there are the other components to it.
That's
Then we
right.
don't know what kind of effect it has on our bodies. That's
That's
right.
it. So if you can, like I switched all the plastic in my house to glass. So if I take lunch to work, it's always in a glass container if it needs to be rewarmed, that kind of
What
thing.
about pots and pans?
Pots and pans, again, I do my very best not to use anything with nonstick coating. I use cast iron wherever possible, that kind of stuff. So it can be daunting when you're looking at, you hearing all of this information as somebody who's never heard
It
this
can
kind
be
of
too much for some people. That's right.
stuff. So I'm always more about adding something beneficial in and then starting to take things away, because
Right.
it's overwhelming. On top of that, it can be crippling expense wise. When
Yeah.
you think about re-outfitting a home with, non-stick pots and pans,
Yeah.
getting rid
Yeah.
of those and
It
replacing
will
those,
add up, definitely. Organic mattress and sheets and everything. Yes,
that's
absolutely.
it. So,
But those things are so important. And again, this conversation is so important because looking at the whole picture, it's a health for you and for your child.
yes,
So the more you clean up, the better environment your child's gonna have and you as a family.
that's
So
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, coming from somebody who was a product of, those years where everybody smoked and all that kind of stuff. My mom smoked when she was pregnant with me. And, we've come a long way and
Yes,
we've learned more. And like Oprah says, when you know better, you do better.
right.
So, I'm just hoping to pass that along and make sure people have the experiences that they want to have and that they need to have. I've watched so many couples struggle, so many wonderful people struggle to become pregnant and to have babies. And, my friends, lots and lots of my friends have done this. And it is an emotional roller coaster ride that is really hard, to see this many people who have to seek this kind of help. And if there's anything that I can do to help give them information that could change the game for them,
Mhm.
then that's what I want.
Mm. On the other note, Jen, how can people reach you?
They can reach me at jennifer@jennifercameronwellness.com. That's my email address. I have a great Facebook group where there's lots of wonderful women who are there supporting each other. And then as of next weekend, so that'll be the 24th of February, I will be launching my beta test program as a whole offering. This is the first time I've ever offered it all together. So it's 3 months worth of nutrition coaching and menstrual cycle charting and my whole program. So I'll be doing that as of next weekend. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat with anybody who has any questions. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Again, I think this is so important for both females and males, or women and men,
Yeah.
to start talking about it and how important it is to be healthy and being in a healthy environment. Exercise, mindset, everything is, we're
That's
so
it.
connected. Everything is just so connected. So,
100%. Yeah.
okay. Jen, thank you so much. Until next time.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Take